Three. Hey, what's up? This is Wilsifer with Abysmal Hymns, and I got Reza Mills back with me again. And as promised, we're going over the top five Led Zeppelin songs. And Led Zeppelin is one of those bands who are as influential on music as the most the pinnacle of those types of bands, like Black Sabbath, the Beatles, Led Zeppelin would be right alongside of those guys. Because they cover so much ground. Everything from what would become metal to psychedelic to bluegrass to just their start as a blues band. So yeah, there's a lot to cover, and we're gonna have to do the dubious job of picking out our top five. For me, it was pretty easy. They just like songs that had been resonating with me since I first heard them when I was 12, I guess. So yeah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. And they definitely came out of that late 60s British blues sort of scene. So you had bands like Cream, there was John Miles Blues Breakers, you know, probably other people as well. I can't quite remember. But yeah, they're definitely part of that whole thing. But it's interesting actually, because unlike those groups, oh, and the Yardbirds as well, of course. But unlike those groups, I feel like they were just a lot more interesting, a lot more diverse. Probably because they stuck around a lot longer, so they had more time to develop their sound and explore different territories. It wasn't just, yeah, this is another one inspired by, I don't know, Muddy Waters or something. They really diversified. That's something obviously that we're going to be talking about during the course of this show. When it comes to Zeppelin personally, I'm like you. I mean, I got into them pretty young. My only complaint about them, maybe sometimes the lyrics can be a bit hokey and kind of a bit silly. Some of the sexual stuff and mystical nonsense. But that said, I still think Robert Plant's probably one of the greatest rock vocalists out there. The rest of the band are great, of course, but John Bonham, I think, is probably the greatest drummer that's ever lived. He was extraordinary. And yeah, and unfortunately, much like Keith Moon, probably had too much of a good thing and passed away very young. But yeah, so I'm really looking forward to this. Actually, this should be an interesting one.
Why don't you kick us off with your first pick?
Absolutely. So I've gone way back to 1969 with Led Zeppelin 2. Uh, and I've gone for the very last track on the record, which is called Bring It On Home. I have to mention in advance, of course. I think part of the track is, I don't know if it's a straight cover of it or if there's some inspiration there, but Willie Dixon, of course, needs to be mentioned because he's the originator of the tune. And I love it because I just love the way that it kind of alternates between that. I mean, it's barely audible, the vocals and that harmonica. It's almost like he's mumbling, which maybe may have been the feature of blues music. I don't know. I don't listen to it that often. But then in between that, you got this just almighty riff by Jimmy Page, and then the most amazing drumming, of course, by the aforementioned John Bonham. So I just love the juxtaposition of um, what these guys did, certainly on these early albums, anyway. Of course, much like Led Zeppelin 1, it was probably them just finding their way a little bit. I do like the record. Um, but obviously it's not one I listen to as often. But I do remember this being the song that when I first heard it, I thought, wow, um, I'm really into this. I realized that, the bloody awful Britpop that was going on around at the time, that music just wasn't for me. And I thought, yeah, I think I found my calling. And then of course the next calling would be hardcore, etc. So yeah, very important tune for me from a classic record.
Right, and you can't go wrong with the first two albums, although none of my picks come off of those. I think that that was like the important beginnings of the band. I mean, if I was going to pick a song from one of those albums, I was on the fence with Dazed to Confused,
Mm.
because that has kind of that early proto metal, really like doomy feel to it. But I mean, I appreciate those years. There's a cool documentary called Incredibly Loud, Incredibly Close that focuses on Jimmy Page, The Edge, and Jack White.
Hmm.
And they talk about how Jimmy Page talks about how, to get blues albums when first started learning how to play guitar. So we're probably talking about the 1950s,
Yeah.
maybe. That was like contraband. They had to go buy these albums from sailors that were coming in from port, who
Mm.
probably were bringing them in from America. Um, and that's how they had to acquire their music. There was no record store that was going to carry them. There was no internet to dig that stuff up. So it was like a dedication with like him and Eric Clapton and Jeff Beck, where
Yeah.
they were like totally dedicated to, discovering the blues, which, is kind of the ground root for Led Zeppelin. And really, I mean, I guess the first two albums would be my favorite blues albums,
Mm.
because I don't really listen to a lot of it myself either. A lot of stuff that's influenced by blues, but not straight up. I've never been into Stevie Ray Vaughan either, unless he's playing with David Bowie. So, yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with those for
Yeah.
sure. I am going to skip ahead a little bit with my first pick, which is kind of the forerunner to certain styles of metal. Things like Iron Maiden, all the power metal bands, Judas Priest, even King Diamond. Definitely originated from this song, I would say. Even though with like stuff like King Diamond, he was like tempering it with Uriah Heep and Black Sabbath.
Mm.
But I'm gonna go with from 1970 off the third album, The Immigrant Song, which is probably the song everybody would figure that I would pick. It's one of the only radio songs by them that I like. Yeah, I think they're one of those bands where if you just judged them by what you heard on the radio, you wouldn't really have a clear picture of what Led Zeppelin was about.
Sure.
But it's a classic tune. It has the part,
Yes.
which he thought was a Viking war chant. And he wrote it after he left Iceland, and he became like super hyper fixated on Viking culture. So
Mm.
that's how that song came about. And there's a whole genres of metal that just focus on Vikings. So yeah.
Yeah, well, you could say, although I can't stand the genre, you could say it's the first power metal song in some respects. Yeah, great tune. It's certainly got that galloping vibe to it. I remember it from being in that what's that Jack Black film? He's that bum who managed to score a gig as a teacher. That thing, that
Oh,
movie.
School of Rock.
That's the one, yeah. And I remember there's a scene where I think he's driving somewhere and the immigrant song's playing in the background. So, it's certainly penetrated, I think, public consciousness in a lot of ways as well. So, yeah, great tune. Can't argue with that one.
All right, what you got next?
All right, so I've skipped ahead even further, and I've gone to I think it's 1973, and the album Houses of the Holy, which is probably, I would say, my favorite Zeppelin album. A very controversial cover, because of course, there's children on there who, I mean, without clothes. So in this day and age, rightfully so, things are flagged up, but can be a bit annoying if you want to post the album up and you have to take it down again. But all that said and done, it's a great album. I think it really, for me, really showcased all sides to their sound. I mean, if you just think about the sheer range of material, like there's a bit of reggae in there, even mixed results, psychedelia, funk, many, many cool styles, but the song I've gone for is The Rain Song, which is the second track on the album. It's just this really mournful, acoustic, I guess you could say folk in some respects. It's got a bit of new age in there, it's a bit proggy, and it's just really tender. Um, I mean, I don't know. I don't think Led Zeppelin were the most emotional of bands. You know, as I said at the beginning, the lyrics tended to be a bit ridiculous at times. But I felt that this was a song that was felt genuinely heartfelt, and it's a ballad, but it's a really good one. So I just think that's for that reason. I think it showed that, yes, he had, paid Robert Plant with his shirt open and strutting around the stage, but it's good to see this other side to him and the band. So for that reason, I've gone for the Rain song.
That's a good one, and I do like Houses of the Holy. There's a not my next song, but I'll have a song from that on my list as well. I mean, once again, you get to see a another side of the band with Rain Song, and they had kind of dipped into that on, the third album.
Hmm.
So yeah, so it's a logical progression. They would take that and kind of flesh it out. And I think actually on my next pick is going to be from the fourth album, So or Led Zeppelin 4, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
And while that has a lot of the radio songs on there, I'm going to go with one that is kind of folky as well too, but it also touches on their more, I guess, esoteric side and their more fantasy oriented side, as they were, at least Robert Plant was super into Tolkien.
Hmm.
So I'm going to go with the Battle of Evermore, which is one of the rare songs. It has a guest singer on it. Joining Robert Plant was Sandy Denny
Hmm.
from the Fairport Convention,
Yeah.
and which was more of like a folky type band anyway, almost like the Mamas and the Papas. So yeah, I love the way their vocals kind of intertwine. It's a darker song, and the climax is pretty epic.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a great tune. And it's weird, but for in the early 70s, there seemed to be a lot of songs with battle in the name. Also reminded of a Queen's song, Ogre Battle. And, again, I guess it taps into that sort of fantasy thing. And something that was, I guess, was common with prog, that whole element. So yeah, great song. Definitely a deeper cut on the record, but yeah, I'm always. I think I'm a bit like you in that respect. I prefer the cuts that don't get as much airplay because obviously everyone knows Stairway. I'm a little bit bored by it at this stage, but it's good to have a cut that's not as well known represented. So yeah, good choice.
Right, and one kind of interesting thing about the Tolkien connection too is
Yeah.
that kind of in post Woodstock hippies,
Hmm.
um, really got into the Tolkien books. He kind of experienced a resurgence because I guess they could relate to the characters that were wandering around, and Gandalf was smoking his pipe, and there was a lot of kind of hippie aesthetics in the life of the hobbits. So
Well,
there you go.
yeah. Speaking of smoking pipes and everything, I could also imagine a band like Electric Wizard or something taking inspiration from that stuff. So.
Right, yeah. Oddly enough, a lot of black metal is super into Tolkien.
Yeah. Oh, that's a pagan thing, I guess, isn't it? And kind of Vikings, and I don't know that sort
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that they like the kind of like Burzum comes from. That's like one of the tongue, worm tongue, I think is what it means in it's one of like the evil speech of the orcs.
of nice.
So and a lot of those bands names come directly from the Tolkien mythos.
Right. Well, fair enough. Yeah, cool. Nice one. Cool, man. So I'll skip ahead even further. I'm going to go to Physical Graffiti from 1975. And this is a long record. I really like it, but I don't know how long it is. I'm guessing it must be 70 minutes at least. It's a double record. And the song I've gone for is the opener. It's a song called Custard Pie. And, I did touch upon their, somewhat silly lyrical focuses at times. And yes, there is a sexual double entendre on this tune. One of the reasons I chose it, actually, I was listening to a Zeppelin tribute album from about 94. 1975 or something, called Iconium. And one of the songs on there was Custard Pie, and it was covered by David Yao and Helmet. And I just, when I heard them do their version of the track, I was like, you know what? This is, when you listen to the original, it's like, yeah, it's almost, to me anyway, it feels like a proto noise rock song. And I don't want people to think it is noise rock, but it has that staccato effect with the guitars and just the way it's paced and everything. So for that reason, I was like, oh yeah, I can definitely see why those guys were a big fan of Zeppelin, and especially this song. So yeah, I really like it. I think there's a bit of I like the Wah Wah solo by Page as well, and it features John Paul Jones, with his harmonica and clavinet. I think that's what it's called. And I think he's an underrated member of the band too. So yeah, that's the reason I went for Custard Pie.
It's not a song I would expect you to pick, but it's certainly a good one. I mean, Physical Graffiti is probably my favorite Led Zeppelin album.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, you can't go wrong with any song from it, as far as I see.
Oh. No, I mean, I was surprised I chose it to be honest, but then when I went back and listened to that cover, I was like, oh yeah, it kind of makes sense to me. I ignored it. I tried to ignore the
Yeah, I mean,
preposterous.
it's not like the Lemon song, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. But it's just that riff and that it just reminded me of the sort. I could see, oh yeah, this is why the Helmet guys and David Youth are really into Zeppelin. It kind of makes sense now.
Yeah, I
So
can see that. I mean, Led Zeppelin's very rhythmic, so is Helmet, so I can that makes sense to me.
sure, cool.
Cool. Well, my next pick is going to go back to 1973 House of the Holy album, and this one is one of the darker, more proggy songs, not just of the album, but of their career, I think. And I'm going to go with No Quarter.
Nice.
Um, I love the effects on Robert Plant's voice, just the kind of like almost hypnotic element the song has.
Yeah.
And it kind of slowly builds. It's not like most of their songs where it just is like kicks in, it's just a slow build and works off atmosphere really well. While, for Led Zeppelin having like a little darker mood.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, that's a great tune. It's really haunting. I'm sure, I mean, I don't like them, but I think Tool did a cover of it as well.
Yep,
Um,
they did. It was pretty good.
yeah, which I remember it being okay. And as I said, I'm not a fan of that band at all. I find them really boring, but I did think that was a pretty decent cover. Yeah, but like you say, it's a Mellotron, isn't it? That's featured in that
Right,
tune.
yeah. That's so it's I think John Paul Jones definitely played a huge hand in that. I think everything, so from what I heard,
Hmm.
is that the way their dynamics kind of split up probably around this time period. I know definitely by 1975, because that's where everybody was kind of hitting their peak addiction.
Yeah,
Um, but Robert Plant and John Paul Jones were not partying like the other two, Jimmy Page and John Bonham. So they were writing, and then Jimmy Page and John Bonham were writing.
yeah.
So it was like two different factions within the band.
Hmm. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, I do think like again, I think John Paul Jones is one of those guys in the band could maybe because he was the bassist as well. I do feel he's kind of a bit overlooked because obviously John Bonham is John Bonham. Then you had Page and Plant, that dynamic, and he always felt like he was a bit of an outsider. But in a way, I think he was the most one of the most talented guys in the band. He was a session musician. He did a brilliant album later on with Diamante Gallas, a not so great project with that guy from Queens of the Stone Age and
Right,
Dave
right,
Grohl.
right.
Very underwhelming
Them
record.
Crooked Vultures.
Yeah, never got all the hype about that. But that aside, I do think he's kind of like their secret weapon, and I feel like it was his influence that brought all these different elements in, like the mellotron and the synths and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, definitely he should get more props than he does, and that's a great tune as well.
Yeah, and John Paul Jones also was like one of the main guys in the band that knew music theory. So
Yes.
he purposefully, was like orchestrating and doing the arrangements. Once you get later into their career and Jimmy Page was getting more fucked up, he had to take more of the reins creatively.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah. And when Bonzo was really going off the rails, with his drinking and everything. So yeah, I agree. I think he was kind of in a way um the steadying force because I don't think he indulged as much as the other guys. I mean, I could be wrong, of course, but I have a feeling that maybe he was a bit more low key and maybe not quite as Mr. Rockstar as the
So,
others.
from what I've heard with Robert Plant and John Paul Jones, is that if they were going to drink or if they were going to smoke some weed,
Hmm,
they wouldn't do it around a bunch of people.
right.
And that's John Paul Jones apparently felt that that's where the problem came in because once you turned everything into a huge rock star party, then that
Yeah,
kind of pushed Bonham and Page to go further.
sure. Yeah, yeah, I agree. Yeah, fair enough. Cool. All right, so I've skipped forward to an album that I really love. I think it's next to Houses of the Holy. It's probably my favorite. Is Presence from 1976, and it's a record that kind of in a way reminds me. I don't know why, but reminds me of an album like Sabotage by Black Sabbath. It was obviously them. They were still at their peak, but you can tell that things were starting to get a little bit fractured in some respects. It's a concept record of sorts, the black obelisk on the cover, the usual Hypnosis fare. And the song that I've gone for is a song, is the opener, Achilles' Last Stand. I mean, it's I remember listening to it and thinking, bloody hell, this is just going on and on and on, but it's really complex, a lot of overdubbed guitar parts. I suppose if you wanted a similarity to their own catalogue, you would think, well, maybe Kashmir to a degree. But yeah, it's definitely a proggy, Middle Eastern influenced tune. And I just love the heavy build up to it. And it just, yeah, it's definitely, and, that bit from Plant. It's just an epic in all senses of the word. So, yeah, this is definitely a tune that always caught my ear.
I love that song. In fact, I was going to pick it, so I'm letting you have that one.
Cool.
I used to be in a band that we did a cover of the Immigrant Song, and after the second verse, we
Yeah.
went into Achilles' Last Stand.
Yeah.
And just because that like gallop is like,
Yeah.
heading in a metal direction for sure. The lyrics are really cool. It's from that time period. It's one of Robert Plant's better performances.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with it. It's one of my favorite songs as well.
It's just I think it's probably one of their best written tunes because by this stage they had definitely left the blues behind. It feels like that this was just like this is the culmination of what at that stage was, I'm guessing, what, 8 years of hard graft. And it's just such a brilliantly composed piece of work. I just go back to it over and over again, and I feel like it's one of those songs that you hear something new each time you listen to it. So yeah, I absolutely love it. I'm like you. I think it's just probably one of the best tunes they ever wrote, personally.
Cool, yeah, works for me. I am gonna go take us back to my favorite album, which is the 1975 double album, Physical Graffiti.
Mhm.
Um, and although I almost picked In My Time of Dying, I had to go with the song that I listen to the most and has just like probably my favorite Led Zeppelin riff in it, and it's the Rover.
Yeah.
I love the riff that's in the chorus.
Mm.
It just is like super hooky. It has balls to it, but it's still melodic.
Yeah. Yeah,
And yeah, I mean that's it's an interesting song too because it's like kind of funky, but it's still pretty rooted in rock.
yep.
And that was a weird time period for them. I mean, it was, from what I've heard, the reason that the album is called Physical Graffiti is because, their page was shooting up, so he was referring to the track marks as physical graffiti.
Oh God.
So yeah, so there's a lot going on that double album. I mean, there's so many great songs on it, but that for me is the standout.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's an outstanding, another outstanding tune. I mean, that album, um, it's a brilliant record, but you really have to invest some serious time with it. Because how long do you reckon it is? What, 70, 75 minutes? Something like that.
I can find out in 2 seconds. Let's see. I want to say probably, let's see, its total runtime is 82 minutes and 59 seconds.
Yeah. So it's not just like, oh, I can just whack it on and just do the ironing. This is an album that you have to sit with and really ingest. And there's so many different types of music on there as well. So yeah, an exceptional piece. Just a great record all round, which contrasts with my last choice. Oh dear. I know it's an album you don't like, but I have kind of a soft spot for it. Um, I have gone for In Through the Outdoor, and quite a goofy tune as well. I like it when Zeppelin do that. They go off on these weird musical tangents. Sometimes they touch on reggae, sometimes they touch on, I don't know, whatever, pop or whatever. But this one they touch on samba. It's a tune called Fall in the Rain. I don't know why I like it. It's just, I guess because at the time, obviously 1979, so now we're talking, it's pretty much the end now. And the album is a mixed bag, but there's kind of a goofiness that I like about the tune. Um, and I'm trying to think. I think it was a tune that was written by John Paul Jones. It's certainly an album that was dominated by his ideas, for better or worse, maybe. But yeah, I really dig it. I just think it's a daft tune, but I think it just shows them able to be a bit playful at the same time, and not just like heavy and mysterious and dark and everything. I think for me, it just shows another dynamic to them that even if the songs don't always work, that's of that kind. At least they're trying something different. In comparison to Sabbath, say, who I still love, but you couldn't really imagine necessarily Sabbath doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could say Sabbath started experimenting around Never Say Die.
Sure, sure. I
And for
mean,
them, I guess some of the stuff even on like with those synths and things like that
yeah,
on Sabbath Bloody Sabbath.
yeah, yeah. And so, I feel like this is a song that will be covered by, remember, what's that guy, the main guy from the New York Dolls when he had that stupid.
Oh, see, I could see David Byrne doing that song.
Yeah, or even David Byrne or David Johansen. That's him with his but is it Buster Poindexter or
Yeah.
that ridiculous persona he put on? Doing a song like this, it has that kind of like why Westerners should never try and dabble with music like this because it always comes across as a bit hokey. But again, I think it's playful, and it's kind of a guilty pleasure for me. So that's why I've chosen it.
Yeah, that polyrhythm that they have is gets really weird in that song, the way it ends up.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a faster bit, isn't there? Yeah.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, it's an interesting record. Again, there's a couple of songs on there that, unlike Achilles' Last Stand, which is really good, there's a tune on here called Carouse Alhambra, which is really quite boring. Um, and doesn't really go anywhere and just drifts in and out. It's really really cheesy, overly cheesy synths. So there are some turkeys on here, but again, "Fool in the Rain" is kind of a guilty pleasure.
Well, I got it. It works for me. I and my last song is actually going to be from that album as well.
Ah.
Because I love people's weird time eras. Like, I love hair metal Celtic Frost. I love new wave Alice Cooper, Disco Kiss. I could just go on. Um, but even this song had its prog moments. Not the
Mhm.
song, even this, well, the song does have its prog moments. It's pretty much a prog song. It's the opening track in the evening. And I like how Robert Plant's vocals are produced on this. It's kind of the album's big, great rock song, really.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I don't know, it's one of those songs that I can always go back to.
I was kind of half contemplating choosing this one, but I thought no, I'll go for something a bit goofier. So I'm glad you picked it because it is
Yeah.
a great tune. Yeah.
Well, it needed to be. Somebody had to pick it up,
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
know?
It is a fantastic tune. Just that kind of weird droning effect to it as well. And it's just yeah, I think it's kind of again, I feel like it's a deeper cut. Because radio hardly ever plays something like this. It's usually, a whole lot of love and all that kind of
Right,
thing.
right.
But so it's good to hear it get some props. So yeah, nice one.
Yeah, I mean, I just like the way the atmosphere comes in. I think Robert Plant's vocals are just like the most well produced,
Yeah,
aside from his solo work, maybe.
sure.
Um, which I would say for like a band of their caliber, that probably John Paul Jones got the best bet in the solo albums. I mean, the
Yeah,
Honey
absolutely.
Drippers, I'm not sure I can hang with.
I mean, obviously Bonzo passed away before he could do that. Yeah, Page didn't really do too much. He did that awful band, The Firm,
The
I think.
Firm.
God, God Almighty. And then what's that Michael Winner film? The Vigilante thing, Death Wish.
All
He
right.
one of the soundtracks. But yeah, I agree. I think probably John Paul Jones is probably did the better solo work, as mentioned at the beginning. Like Diamond Gallas. I mean, you team up with someone like that. Um, you're talking high caliber quality there.
She's better than Alison Krauss, that's for sure.
Well, yes, I have to say, I remember when that particular record came out and just finding it so tedious. There's nothing intrinsically wrong with it. It just feels very middle of the road and bland, but
Yeah, that was a weird time. I mean, I guess it, makes sense for Robert Plant that that's the next place he goes into is like folk and bluegrass and Americana.
sure.
Because it's an older person's genre. So he has to
Yeah.
transition out of, asking if anybody remembers laughter and, go into something more age appropriate. So, because you
Yeah,
can't take him seriously singing the Lemon Song now.
no, of course not. And it would be quite embarrassing, I think, quite undignified for a grown-ass man, who's, to be going squeeze the lemon. You just think, oh, this
I
guy's
mean,
great.
I want to say on the last Alice Cooper album, he gets pretty close to doing that.
I know, you just like, oh, mate,
I'm
come
like,
on.
how much Viagra are you taking?
I know, come on. Like, look, I understand at any age we can enjoy carnal activities, let's say, but I just don't want to hear it. Just keep it to yourself, Rob. So,
Right?
yeah, I understand what you mean by that. Yeah, you wouldn't want him to do that kind of
Mm-mm.
material again,
It's
or a
like when
sim.
Morrissey takes his shirt off now.
Yeah.
Feels like somebody's dad walked into the room and did and did the,
What do they call them? Dad bods or
Yeah, I
something.
mean, I'm just embarrassed for him.
Yeah, it's like, come on, Moz. I mean, you're well in your mid 60s now. Um, no one wants to see your pale white Mancunian flesh
Right?
anymore, But hey, okay. I guess it
That's how it
does.
goes.
Yeah, there you go.
Somebody needs to make Iggy Pop wear a shirt.
Yeah, well, at least to be fair to him, at least he's got kind of the figure to do it. But yeah, he's very scrawny. That's
Yeah,
for
but now, I mean, you need to see.
sure.
Just Google Iggy Pop on stage 2025 and you'll
Yeah. Yeah.
reconsider. So
Yeah.
yeah, so there we go with Led Zeppelin. really this is an exercise in examining the deeper cuts. That's the thing. I think that you don't get the full picture of what they do
No.
unless you're listening to full albums with these
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure in the States, just like we have here, if there's like a greatest hits radio or bloody rock station, it's always the same old tunes. And, that's why it was so fun preparing for this, because it's just like, oh, you just forget how many amazing songs they have aside from those. So,
Right. Yeah, I don't think I really listened to many of those radio songs.
no,
Um,
no, it's probably the least interesting material.
yeah, because I don't think they had a lot of them on Physical Graffiti,
No.
if memory serves me. So
Yeah.
they weren't
Yeah.
playing In My Time of Dying on on the radio, but
I mean, they'll play Kashmir, I
yeah,
think.
yeah, I guess that's the
Usually
one.
play that, which is fine, but again, it's just played to death. The point where you never want to hear it again, or at least not for a long time.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Cool.
So next week we're switching it up. We're gonna get out of the focusing on singular artists at least for 3 weeks. As next week we're gonna go into our top five heaviest songs.
Yeah, that
So
should be.
we'll dig into some genres we haven't talked about in a little bit, unless I guess we still bring up hardcore every now and then, just even in a episode about Led Zeppelin or whoever.
Yeah, yeah. I
I'll
know.
reference black metal when I'm talking about Led Zeppelin.
Does that?
But they got the Tolkien thing, so
Hey,
I'm
yeah.
sure that's some of them got it
Oh,
too.
look, Henry Rollins and Ian MacKaye used to go and see bands like Led Zeppelin before, they started performing as musicians. So, they've influenced everyone pretty much,
Right.
not just hard rock bands, I guess.
Yeah, which is always weird to me because like the hippie thing was they were kind of the antithesis. Well,
Yeah,
hard rock would be. I guess Led Zeppelin was still rooted in it. Somebody like Black Sabbath
sure.
would have been eventually be the antithesis. Although I don't think that they were conscious of it.
Yeah,
And I think that it wasn't until people like Alice Cooper and Judas Priest,
yeah,
were the made a more conscious effort to distance themselves. But
sure.
there you go. So next week, top five heaviest songs. You guys like and subscribe and do all that fun stuff, and we will see you then.